He's a younger guy, but he's been around for a while. We'll shoot the shit with him. He's been down here before. Down to the course, we're damn near relations in a way. Spent a lot of time down here, but this guy grew up in Idaho, and the first time he ever saw an ocean or got in one was at Bud's training in San Diego. He had a terrible time out there in Bud's. I'll let him tell it. But 3 tries, 2 hell weeks, and then that wasn't the end of it out there. You know, the guy went to a medical school, 18 Delta, down with the SF. You know, our corpsmen have to go through that. And that was a struggle for him. Pulled that together, and just a really tough guy. Going to talk to you about what, you know, some freaking endurance. That dude's got the metal, but tossed out of Buds, did a deployment with the boat guys. You know, the now they call them SWIC. Did it with that and came back to Buds. By God, he got it done. And so now there's a lot of questions for you guys of mixed martial arts and all this other stuff. This is the dude to answer. And just like Mr. Black the other night, just those cauliflower ears, man, he's a really rough dude. And he does a lot of that cage fighting stuff. And we'll see if he wants to share some of the links with you to see some of that stuff. But he goes in there and fucking destroys people.
Hello?
What's going on, Mr. Purple?
Not much. How you doing?
Nothing, man. I got a good bunch of guys out here all eager to hear some of this stuff. How's everything with you today?
Everything's going great.
Life in the Navy treating you okay?
Yeah, not too bad, even in an army town.
Oh, yeah, man. Easy day, though. Easy day. Got to get down there and get it done. Got to tell these guys a little bit about your background when you were a kid and you know, thinking about you know, ultimately going to Buds, man.
Grew up in North Idaho. I was a wrestler, and kind of heard about the SEALs, so I decided I wanted to give it a try. But first, I did college wrestling for a semester. I done pretty decent as high school wrestler, so I tried college for one semester and just had kind of lost the love for it and wanted, you know, a new challenge. So started looking in the Navy. Growing up in North Idaho, I'd never seen the ocean. Didn't do a lot of swimming, dog paddling around, things like that, goofing around in the lakes, but that was about it. But all the recruiters told me, don't worry about it, they'll teach you how to swim at boot camp. Of course, none of them were SEALs. So I go to boot camp, figure no problem, I should be good to go. And I think it was the 3rd week, they said, hey, everyone who's interested in being a SEAL, show up early at the pool. So we all showed up early at the pool, and they said, okay, get in and start the test. I had no idea what they were talking about when they said side stroke or breaststroke, so I kind of raised my hand like, hey, just get in the water and get ready to do the test. Well, I failed to swim miserably. Like, they finally have to say, okay, time's up, get out. I think there's only like 3 of us left in the pool at this point. It was pretty comical. So I asked them if I could finish the test, and they said, you know, no way, you fail any part of the test, you're done. I said, well, I know I failed, but I've been here 3 weeks and I haven't got a good workout yet. I came from college wrestling. You know, I'd like to at least stay in shape. Can I just do it for a workout? So they said, okay. They let me do it. I wind up smoking the push-ups, sit-ups. Got around 21 pull-ups and smoked the run. So I'm getting my stuff ready to leave, and the chief who's in charge of it says, hey, you go ahead and stand right there and just post against that wall. So I stand against the wall, and he goes through everyone who passed, gives them their package, talks to them, gives them a little speech. And finally he walks up to me and he goes, what the hell is your problem? I was like, I don't understand what you mean. And he goes, why can't you swim? And I go, because they told me you guys were going to show me how to do that. He goes, so you can do all this other stuff, you just don't know how to swim. I said, not the strokes you're talking about, no. So he wrote me this little note that I took back, gave it to my main instructor, petty officer in charge of us, and it said, hey, we'd like to have this guy come in 2 days a week for the next couple weeks before breakfast. Come early to the pool. We're going to have a guy here to work on his swimming, and then he'll just meet you guys at breakfast. They signed off on it. 2 days a week. I got up earlier than everyone else, ran to the pool, did my swimming. 2 weeks later, took the test and passed it. So now I'm all excited because I get to go to Buds. So the next step is I had to go to A school, because this is before SEAL was its own rate. And I show up at Yeoman School, because it's the shortest day school there is. It's 5 weeks long. So I'm like, oh, this will be an easy day. So all I did the whole time I was there was swim and work out. I didn't run much, because I've ran my whole life being a wrestler. Well, I started gaining a lot of weight just putting on size. You got to figure, I mean, to be a state champion wrestler, you spend a lot of time cutting weight. So for the first time in 6 years, I wasn't cutting any weight. So I put on a bunch of weight and, not fat either. I mean, I was lean, but I bulked up probably about 25 pounds heavier than I've ever been in my life. So I show up to Bud's. My swimming is great. I'm always finishing probably top 5 pairs in my class. My running is going downhill quick. Well, once you start phase, there's only so much you can do, so I keep working on it. We finish Hell Week. We go into Hydro Week. And I'm still not doing great on these runs. Well, finally, it's the last week of first phase. And after Hell Week, you get a brown shirt. So they take me into a board, and there were 5 of us that got the fate that we got. They said, okay, tomorrow, shave your head, put a white shirt back on, take the advanced screening test, and Monday you'll start day 1, week 1, first phase over again. Everything but Hell Week. So 2 of the guys DOR'd right there. One of the guys DOR'd that Monday when we started, and myself and one other person stuck it out. So I made it to the end of first phase again, this time just squeaking by on my runs, and I went into dive phase. I'm doing okay, but the times keep getting faster and faster. I'm just not quite making them.
Now, they let you slide through the second Hell Week. You didn't have to do that.
No, I was just assigned as a booge boy for the instructors that second Hell Week.
There you go.
So I'm going through dive phase, and I make it to the last week of dive phase. They take me into a board, and they're like, hey, you're not cutting the times you need for runs. I'm like, well, can I go day 1, week 1? What can I do to stay? And they're like, no, you know what, you're shot. Your body's pretty well shot. There's no way you're going to be able to heal up and do what you need to do, and you're just not making the times. But we'd like to keep you in the community. So here's the deal. We're going to send you to SWIC, which there wasn't a lot going on back then. This was SWIC Class 18, so it hadn't been around a real long time as a designated training program. It was kind of known as the Bud's Graveyard. So I was like, okay, so they sent me over there, and I did okay, went down SBU 26. And I said, well, I know I want to go back to Bud's, and they told me I could return in 2 years. So the whole time I'm down at SBU 26, all I do is run. First marathon. Then I do my first ultra, which was a 36. Then I did 1 or 2 more 36 milers. And then I worked up to a 52-mile ultra marathon where you put your hand in the Atlantic and run to the Pacific across the Isthmus of Panama. Did my screening test, put my package in, went back to Bud's, did another first phase, did another Hell Week, did my second dive phase, my first third phase, and graduated. So I got to do a summer Hell Week and a winter Hell Week, which was kind of fun.
What class did you start in?
My original Bud's class that I went through Hell Week with was 203, and my next Hell Week was 217.
And what'd you finished with 217?
Finished with 218. I got pneumonia the second Hell Week, so I finished it out, and then they rolled me after Hell Week was over.
Damn, dude. That's getting some, man.
So
good for you. I don't know many guys that just wouldn't have been done with that shit. The first, as you said, those guys dropping right there, being told to go back through all that in first phase, man, would have just, man, that would have been painful to hear, let alone just to say fuck it and go do it, man. So good for you, got it done.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna quit, so I figured as long as they'd let me keep coming back, I was gonna work for it. So wound up going East Coast, which I had a great time doing. And first team was at 8. Worked with a good bunch of guys. That's actually where I wound up meeting you for the first time, was with the guys I was working with. And we went over to Kosovo, And a funny thing happened over there. You know, this is before 9/11. This is when everybody was hungry for mission. It was few and far between that we were getting a lot of good missions. But Kosovo seemed to be a pretty decent spot that everyone wanted to go to. Problem was, to get an op over there, you know, we had to share them with some of the other forces. And I noticed one thing. The medic went on every single mission. And I was like, this is ridiculous. It didn't matter. You had to have a medic. So the rest of us were basically drawing straws for who got to go on the missions, and the medic was there every time. So we got a couple, and he got every one of them. So I'm like, okay, you know, there's definitely some kind of scam going on here. I want to figure out what it is. So I talked to my Master Chief, and I go, hey, I'd really like to go do this medic thing. And he looked at me and goes, hey, you know, you can lift heavy things, but you can't really spell them. You know, that's, you're talking about going to mental buds. I was like, yeah, I know, but let me give it a try. So he said, okay. So I moved to Fort Bragg, and I wasn't just going to do the short course. I was going to do the full long course. That was the deal. If I went, I had to do the whole thing. So I show up down there, and probably about 6-7 weeks into it, I get rolled on one of the practicals. So I'm like, okay. And back then, if you got rolled, you had to wait till the next class caught up to the point that you were to get put back in it. It's a little different than it is now.
No, tell the guys what a practical is, what you're talking about.
It's a hands-on skill where they have you, you know, you do a full patient assessment, you're putting hands on someone, you're doing bandaging and splinting, you're putting bandages on, you're starting actual IVs, you're doing all of that.
All right.
And I wind up, if you fail it once, you get a retest. If you fail that, you go to a board. And they decide whether they're going to keep you or drop you. Well, they said, okay, we're going to roll you. You know, this is the first thing that you've really failed, so we're going to go ahead and keep in the course. You'll just jump into the next class when they get to this point. Well, they were revamping the program to kind of the standard they have now, where they were really up in the anatomy and physiology. So I said, hey, instead of sitting around for 6 weeks, would you let me go ahead and start the course over from the very beginning? And they're like, well, you know, we really haven't done that. But it is a new protocol. They said, here's the deal. You have to take every single test that you've already taken before, and if you fail it this time, it's going to count as a fail. So I said, okay. So I wound up doing it. Made me a lot better at my anatomy and physiology, and actually helped me out quite a bit when I wound up making it through and graduating the course.
Now this is, you're talking, this is 18 Delta.
Yes.
The long course for that, and it's an academic nightmare.
It's definitely entertaining.
And you didn't have any kind of medical background whatsoever.
No, I wasn't even a corpsman.
Yeah, a guy, not even a Navy corpsman. Okay, keep going, bro.
So I make it through there, and they send me to Team 2. And worked with a great bunch of guys. Really enjoyed it over there. By this point, the war had kicked off. When 9/11 hit, I was actually in the middle of a thoracic trauma lecture. So when we watched everything go down, you know, we didn't watch on our TVs. We watched inside a multi-million-dollar building on a 15 by 15-foot wall monitor. So it was pretty crazy. They walked in and they said, hey, does anyone have family in New York? One guy raised his hand. They said, who is it? He goes, my aunt works in the World Trade Center. They said, hey, you need to come out in the hall with us real quick. And once he left, it went from the PowerPoint presentation that we were watching to a live feed of the World Trade Center on the news. So when I watched the towers fall, it was on a 15 by 15-foot monitor. There's a handful of guys at the schoolhouse that were students who'd actually been overseas before. So it was definitely a pretty hard-hit moment. So from there, I wind up going to Team 2. Had a great time at Team 2. Loved it. Got a chance to go over to Iraq with them. Did pretty much a world tour. Did a 9-month cruise instead of a 6. So I got PACOM, which is all of Asia. I got Europe again, and then got Iraq. I came back. They needed a corpsman to go out the door again 6 weeks later. So I hopped in with another team and got to go over and hit Afghanistan. Did Did a quick 3 months over there, and had a great time doing that. Came back, and I was married at the time, so wanted to start looking towards med school. And they gave me orders down to the 18 Delta course to be an instructor. I just won SOCOM Medic of the Year.
Yeah, no, wait, how long, one of the guys asked, how long is that long course you're talking about?
1 year.
So you did that and knuckled your way through that and came out with SOCOM what?
Well, no, I got my SOCOM Medic of the Year from, it's the SOMA Special Operations Medic of the Year for Iraq.
With never ever being a corpsman before doing that. That's pretty badass,
but
bro.
once you finish the long course, it's your skills are beyond any standard Navy corpsman school. So it was good. I enjoyed it. So when they gave me orders to go back as an instructor, I went. Got back there. Been there been have an extended tour there right now because of my situation. I'm a single dad now with 3 little girls. They no longer have a mom, so it's just me raising them. Been down there teaching. I got my master training specialist down there, and I trained both the Navy and the Army personnel that come through there to be the best medics in the world.
So all the SF dudes and all that?
Yep.
And there's not an SF guy out there that can kick a SEAL's ass, is there?
I'm not too worried about it. Although, I'd have to put some money on Tim Kennedy.
There you go.
He's one of my sparring partners, and he's a force to be reckoned with. He's actually one of Strike Force signed fighters now, and a reservist in SF. He's one of the guys that helped get me into fighting MMA.
Well, after all this, all the Bud stuff, all the SBU shit, all the 18 Delta, all the deployments overseas, yeah, these guys are ready to hear some of this MMA stuff. You've got quite a captivated audience. So what got you started with all that?
Well, I grew up as a wrestler in Idaho. Wound up winning a state championship there. So when I went back to being a medical instructor at the course, my wife wound up leaving right after I got there. So I had a 1-year-old, 2-year-old, and 6-year-old. 2 of them still in diapers. And the youngest I'd known less than 3 months of her life, quite honestly, because of the deployments I'd been doing. And all of a sudden it was just me and 3 little girls in a town where I had no family and didn't really know anyone. And the closest relatives were 4.5 hours away. So I needed an outlet, so I didn't just become that pissed off, angry guy that winds up being a shitty dad. So I started training MMA. Started out with just jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai, did some Muay Thai tournaments, did some jiu-jitsu tournaments. Then I started training for MMA with some guys like Tim Kennedy, Jason Palacio. I trained under Greg Thompson, who's just a phenomenal instructor. Fight out of Team Rock. And just some amazing guys that came out of there that helped me. And it was a great outlet. I'd go fight, an hour to 2.5 hours a night. And that way when I came home, I didn't have the energy to be, all my frustrations or aggravations I had for whatever outside circumstances were going on were gone, and it was just family time with me and my girls. So they have a Army Combatives program called MACP. So I got certified. It's level 1 through 4. Level 4 is the highest certification they have as an instructor in the MACP program, Modern Army Combatives. I became the first Navy personnel in the world to be a level 4 MACP instructor, and I was on the SWIC, not what we refer to as SWIC, but the Special Forces. SWIC is their training pipeline, the Special Warfare training group. That's where the 18 Deltas, 18 Bravos, 18 Charlies, everyone in what would be their BUDS pipeline is in. So we put together a team to go to the World Combatives Tournament, which is multiple rounds of jiu-jitsu, then multiple rounds of pancrase, and the finals are MMA rules. So I went to that tournament, and I've been on the winning team 3 times, and I've taken 2nd and 3rd in the world.
Yeah, I've seen, you showed me one of those fights. If you're up for it, I might throw a link up there to it. You can pass it off to me later. But yeah, see, Mr. Purple has these cauliflower ears and this kind of fucked up nose. The first thing you notice about him. And I told you guys about fucking around with dudes that have cauliflower ears last night. We talked to another guy you know on here. But yeah, that fight was over pretty quick. Yeah, good for you. How old are you now?
34.
There you go, man.
I did my first I did several amateur fights, and I did my first professional fight. First professional fight at 33, and then I've done two professional fights so far. The ones for the military don't count as pro fights. I did several amateur pancrase and MMA fights before I started fighting professional.
Now, I know they were down on, somebody started that all up, the Special Forces MMA fights or whatever that was a few years ago, where the SEALs against the Marines and the SF dudes. How are they looking at that now?
Now it's a case-by-case basis. You actually send a waiver up, and as long as it is a legitimate sanctioned event, and you present yourself in a good manner that represents, special operations in a productive and professional manner, they're okay with it. I'm coming off a rehab from a surgery, so I haven't had a fight for probably 7 or 8 months, and I'm getting ready to do a quick little trip right now, and when I get done with that, I'm going to go ahead and try to schedule another fight and get ready for next year's All-Army tournament and try to get first this time. That way I'll have had first, second, and third.
Sounds good to me, dude. Go out there and smash around. One of the guys is calling you Casey Ryback. What the hell is the name of that movie?
Under Siege.
Under Siege, that's right. Yeah, and excellent, man, excellent. What one of the guys was asking, what's the difference between kind of street fighting, MMA type of stuff, and some of the, a lot of what they're teaching the guys now, for deployment. A lot of guys think, SEALs are just trained extensively in, some form of Jeet Kune Do or, whatever the hell it is. And, a lot of it's just street fighting, taking somebody down and keeping them down. But, what's your calls?
Well, there's a lot of hoo-flung-poo styles out there. That's actually a term that I can't say I coined. Matt Larson, who helped put together the MACP system, uses that phrase a lot.
What is it?
Because basically it's who thinks their shit's the best. Pretty much that's why we have MMA now, mixed martial arts, because people realized, okay, if all I do is this and someone else knows how to do this, I get my ass kicked. But if I can do a multitude of it, it's good. It's kind of like if you're only good with a rifle, it's going to suck for you to walk into a house where you may only be able to use a short barrel or a pistol. So you need to be up on all the weapon systems. Well, it's kind of the same thing with fighting. Your hands, your elbows, your knees, your head, everything you wear is a weapon system. So why only get good with one of them? So that's kind of where MACP comes into play in MMA. The difference between, I'll just go strictly with MMA first, and street fighting is, I grew up as a street fighter. I'll tell you right now, myself at 34 would knock the shit out of myself at 21. Because now I actually have technique and skill. And it's a simple, just understanding skills. And what we teach in the MACP system, I actually teach for the schoolhouse as well. I'm their primary instructor, even though I'm a Navy guy. When you're teaching a lot of those systems, what you're teaching is, hey, concepts. You can be the best jiu-jitsu guy in the world, but you got to know how to get the fight on the ground. And if you're fighting multiple opponents and you're great at fighting on the ground, you're going to get your ass handed to you because one guy may hold you down while the other kicks you in the head. So at the same time, you might be the best stand-up guy in the world, don't know how to get a takedown on the guy and get him on the ground so you can hold him there so your buddies can get a hold of him. It's not going to do any good. So you've got to train in all ranges of weapon systems that your body has. Simple things like your chest plates. Dropping chest plates into a guy's face, great way to do damage. So I'll never say any one system is the only way to go. you need to take a little bit of everything, just like if I'm working on a car. I take a lot of tools and I put them in a toolbox because I never know which tool I'm going to need, but I'm at least proficient with each one of them.
Well, that made more sense than just about anything else I've ever heard anyone say. You know, it makes a hell of a lot of sense, man, especially when you put it with the weapons, the pistol and all that other stuff. Did you, what do you think of CrossFit?
I do a multitude of things. I wouldn't call myself a CrossFit guru. I know some guys that are. I'm not. I like it when I'm getting ready for a fight or when I'm training for different things. When I do it, I've got a 50-pound vest that I wear when I do most of my workouts when I'm doing it, and then I wear my Kim Bio mask. And that way I can train in kind of a hypoxic state so it helps me when I'm in the cage or in the ring. Try to get my sats down to about 89 or 90. Wear a pulse ox while I'm doing it. And that way I'm oxygen starved. Same thing as training at altitude. It helps you create more hemoglobin. So I do a mixture of that stuff. You know, I like sledge swings. I like tire flips. I mix a little bit of everything together. Kind of like fighting. I don't do just any one thing. I like a multitude and always keep shocking myself.
Yeah, Mr. Pink loves doing a lot of the CrossFit stuff. Hates the bit about kipping on the pull-ups. You know, dead hanger, nothing. You know, doing all that stuff.
The cheating?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, you can't. You're not going to get away with that shit in bud. So why practice it? Got a huge discussion on here right now about Steven Seagal. That dude was never a SEAL. No, outside of that, I don't. He played one in a movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Big discussion on here about Steven Seagal right now. So you must have reminded the dudes of that.
When I was going through the MACP program, I can't say if this is 100% truth or not, but the guys who initially taught me the MACP system are all pretty reputable, pretty solid guys with great backgrounds. That's why they pulled them together to help teach this and develop this program, which is constantly evolving. That's why I like this program. It evolves and changes. It doesn't say, okay, this is the only way you'll ever do it. If you show them something that works, they go, hey, you know what? You should probably incorporate that. Mm-hmm. But there's a story, once again, I can't say if it's 100% true or not, where, you know, everyone was always talking about who's tougher, Van Damme or Steven Seagal. And from people who I've known who've met Steven Seagal, some of them have said that he's a little arrogant. I don't know. I haven't met him. This, again, is hearsay. But supposedly he told Van Damme that he wanted, hey, you know what? You know, I want a piece of you. I'm tired of people wondering which one of us is tougher. And Van Damme looked at him and goes, I don't know if you realize this or not, but we're actors. I act. I don't fight.
There you go.
So I found that amusing.
The boys got some really good pictures of Chuck Norris. He's a big proponent of the SEALs and has been overseas plenty of times. And, you know, there's Chuck Norris posters up and, you know, signing them for the guys. You know, Chuck loves his SEALs. And actually,
one of the first jiu-jitsu brown belts in the United States.
Yeah, Chuck tried to pick up my buddy's girlfriend. Was really working her right in front of him one time in California. So. Yeah, he was like, I don't care who that motherfucker is. I'm ready to pull some SEAL shit on this dickhead right now. So,
I'll tell you who else is a huge proponent for the SEAL. Well, for the whole military, Mike Swick. Mike Swick and John Fitch and Josh Koscheck, I've had some pretty decent chances to meet them. They've always been very cordial, very nice. Mike Swick is absolutely one of the biggest supporters of the military, him and John Fitch both, that I have ever met in my life.
Yeah, gotta love them, man.
I was in Vegas at the UFC, and their coaches, I've had a chance to go out to AKA, and they've let me come in and just work out with those guys, just to give me a chance to come do it. Their gym's amazing. It was, John Fitch was fighting. It was the first UFC I'd ever gone to. No, I'm sorry, the second. It's out in Vegas. I'm with my big brother. He came down so we could meet in Vegas. Hadn't seen each other for about 2 years. So Bob Cook says, yeah, you can come in and, you know, watch one of Fitch's workouts. So I'm like, okay, great. This is before I'd gone out to AKA to work out with them at all. And I went there, and I'm just watching, and then they have the stand-up guy works out with me, just shows me a little bit and works with me a little bit, and Fitch is doing his own thing, you know. And here's this high-level UFC fighter that everyone in Vegas knows by sight. And he walks over to my brother, and he introduces me. He goes, "Hey, nice to meet you. My name's John." Like, my brother would have no idea who he was. One of the most, and Mike Swick, the same way, the most humble, greatest guys, but I met them by a dog and pony that I was their escort here on Bragg, and ever since then, those guys have stayed in contact with me. They've been great guys. Anytime that I've been in town for a UFC or there's been a fight or anything, those guys have been amazing. And I'll tell you right now, as far as supporters of the military go, can't say enough about those guys. Swick, Koscheck, and Fitch.
There you go. Well, you've created quite a ruckus on here with this gas mask thing, so you've got to go into it a little bit more. These guys really want to know about the, and you put it up there as a medical thing too of what you're doing with it. So, and I did want to talk to you a little bit about your diet and your, the training you did before BUD/S and what you're doing now. But hit up that gas mask thing. Just roll, man.
Okay. You've probably seen. Anyone who's watched any movies about modern warfare have seen when the guys throw on the chemical suits and everything, and they have that mask that looks like it's just so hard to breathe through with the big gas canister, and it makes you kind of look like an alien. Well, I put one of those on with the canister on it because anyone in the military will tell you, you really have to fight to breathe with one of those on unless you have an overpressure blower. Well, because of that, because I have to work so much harder to breathe, you're always at a little bit of starvation of oxygen. Just like if you're at altitude, until your body gets used to it, it's not used to feeding enough oxygen to your body. So I do that to make the workouts a little harder. If I can do 5 minutes of hitting the bag or a CrossFit workout, because I usually stagger them towards how long a fight's going to be, 3 5-minute rounds or whatever. If I can do it with that on, then when I'm actually in there getting it on, it doesn't feel nearly as bad. And it causes that hypoxic state, which lower oxygen levels, and it makes your body start going, hey, I need more oxygen. So over time, concept is just like training at altitude, hopefully. So if nothing else, it definitely adds a whole new level to the workout.
Now, I know the guys can pick those things up in a surplus store, but anything they got to watch out for, danger-wise about doing that shit.
Yeah, don't. I would recommend them just use a snorkel.
Yeah, that's a damn good idea. Breathe through a snorkel.
That's not my idea. I actually saw. I was watching some clips of guys training for the UFC, and they were using snorkels in their training. The only difference is I have access to a mask, which anyone that goes to an Army surplus can get. But the thing is, I'm also medically trained where I can spot certain signs that are dangerous and things like that. I don't recommend anyone do that unless they have someone working out with them who understands medicine and knows what to do in case they did go down or go hypoxic. So a snorkel, they can use that. But obviously, with anything else, take it in baby steps.
Yeah, I remember some of my most miserable experiences with a gas mask out at Nyland, our desert training area.
Yeah.
The Australian SAS dudes would, we'd all gear up with those things and go on a freaking long desert run and then come back to the range, And if you weren't hitting those targets, buddy, you were in a lot of trouble. You were going back out on that run, and you were getting a dose of IVs that day. So, easy day, man.
Yeah.
Let me grab a question. How about, Woody, can you, the weighted vest thing?
Yeah.
One of the guys, I heard you talking about that. One of the guys was wanting to know about the weighted vest and what you're doing with it.
You can buy them just about anywhere. Mine's a VMAX. I like it. It's comfortable. It's form-fitting. Mine's 50 pounds. I put it on. It straps nice and tight to me. I can hit the bag. I can run. I can do anything, really, that I could do otherwise, but I do it with an extra 50 pounds on me. And that way, it's just like having body armor and kit on. Except I can move a lot easier.
Train the way you're going to fight. What about these young guys getting ready for BUD/S?
They probably really don't need that, other than when they're doing log stuff and the boat things. But they're going to simulate it a little bit, use it a little bit for their workouts. But they really need to be working on getting that speed down for running, conditioning those legs for the soft sand, and getting themselves conditioned to avoid stress fractures and keeping their legs healthy by getting those long distance of miles in. The problem I had was I figured my running was good because I was a wrestler, and all I did, I'd get out of class every day at A school, hit the pool, and I would swim until it closed. Well, my swimming was great, but my running just went downhill because I wasn't used to the extra body weight that I put on by not cutting weight for the first time.
I think those guys could, use a vest like that to improve pull-ups, improve push-ups.
Oh, for that stuff, yeah, definitely.
The running shit. So, what would you tell these guys a little bit? If you had to do all that over again, what would you have done for your running? Now, I'm talking to you after running 52 frickin' miles to Panama and shit. So, these guys going to buds now. We all know nothing's changed out there. So, what would you tell them?
I would incorporate, instead of just focusing on one or the other, I would incorporate run, swim, runs.
Oh, yeah.
That was something I didn't have privy to and didn't realize.
It's a team favorite, man.
What's that?
A team favorite, the old run, swim, run.
Yep.
Tell them what that is.
Some people are good at running, some people are good at swimming. But yeah, if you start combining those and spending, a good amount of time on each, and if you're weaker at one, obviously spend a little bit more time on that, but don't completely neglect the other because you think you're good to go. That's what I did, and it cost me another first phase and another hell week and a second dive phase.
There you go. Tell the guys a little bit about run, swim, run, man.
You do a run, anywhere from 2 to 4 miles. Hop in, do depending on your level, anywhere from a half mile to a 2 mile swim. Hop back out and do another 1 to 4 mile run. It's give yourself a great workout, and then at the end of it, or right before you get in the water, or at different stages in it, a max pull up, then maybe go in the water and do your swim. You get out, you do max push ups. Then you finish the last part of your run, and then you do max push-ups and pull-ups. And it gives you a chance to break things up and do a little bit of everything. And you're doing those max-out tests when you're taxed. Because when you're in buds, you're never fresh. You're running back from chow. You're running to chow. You're running to the O course. You're never fresh. So you want to practice doing stuff, not when you're, I just woke up and I feel great. When you're a little run down, because you're never going to be fresh at buds.
Well, that's the other thing. We talk to the guys a lot. The other thing they're missing in all their training and all the things that they do, and some of these guys do some really fucking worked up stuff, and a lot of us did before we went in, really nutty shit. But the other thing they're missing out there is a lot of the sleep deprivation and the intense pressure that you're put under to perform. That frickin' buds training area is a gruesome place. And so, some of these guys practice the breath holding, and they don't have any trouble doing that. But they are certainly not practicing that pool, that unheated pool out there in California with a bunch of instructors, seeing all their buddies dropping and quitting, and, just pressure that from an evolution they fucked up the day before.
I'll tell you what, the best way to simulate that pressure, quite honestly, join a wrestling team. That way, you're out there on the mat, you've got an entire wrestling team expecting you to perform not only as an individual, but for the whole team. And you start adding, I'm about to step out and go, football, you know what? You can always hide in the background in football because someone else will cover if you miss something or what, or you can blame someone else. A wrestling team, when you walk out there, either you win or you lose, but there's no excuses to it. And there's a lot of pressure involved in that. There's making weight, which means you've got to get used to sweating, making food commitments, sometimes sleep commitments. And it definitely prepped me mentally a lot for what I had to do, was wrestling. Mentally, it gives you that, you want to get put under stress, that's a great way to start simulating and getting into it.
Yeah, when I think about it now, the way you say that, that is a good, real good way. And I'm sure I shared that study I did out in San Diego, where they, after all that money, all that expense, all those psychologists could determine to try to profile a guy that could be a SEAL was surfers and wrestlers stood a better chance of getting through buds than anyone else. Go figure. So you guys got to take that into account. You're exhausted. You're still beating the shit out of from the day before. You're blasted with that cold water getting into the pool. All those evolutions, a tremendous amount of pressure. And, you had a tremendous amount of pressure on you to, each 4-mile time run and everything else. So, what the guys cannot duplicate is that intense pressure that today could be my last day here. It's kind of like Survivor, man,
Yeah. Except you vote yourself off.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, boy. Easy day. Am I taking you away from anything? You got a couple of minutes to take a few more of these questions?
I sure do.
All right, man. You were talking about the run, swim, run. They were guys were talking about with fins or without fins. Mix it up a little bit.
Mix it up. Dude, start getting used to doing a lot of swimming with fins on because you're gonna have to be good with fins on, and that's one of those things you got to condition yourself for. But also do it without because you wanna be good at that. And you know what? Go to the Y. Take a couple swim lessons to learn some of those crazy strokes because a lot of the stuff you do, like, pays to be a winner races in the pool. They're like, okay, we're doing breaststroke or we're doing, you know what, guys, or not breast, but butterfly and stuff. Take the little bit of time to learn a couple funky strokes because it'll pay off huge in that pool when you're going up against 160 guys and you want to be one of the first guys to, okay, pays to be a winner, by the third evolution. If you're one of the guys out of the pool because you're winning, that's a little bit fresher you're going to be the next day than that guy who's never done the stroke before and is there for the next 20 minutes waiting to be out of the pool.
There you go, man. Did you do anything crazy before, Buds, like taking those cold showers and any weird stuff you did?
I grew up in North Idaho, about 40 miles from Canada. Cold wasn't really an issue for me, but one thing I used to do to cut weight, so I used to cut a lot of weight. In the middle of winter, we have anywhere from 2 to 5 feet of standing snow on the ground, typically where I'm from. So I would put a towel under my door. I would cover up all the heat vents, and I would sleep with just a white sheet and naked, and that way I'd shiver all night, and I'd go from losing 1.5 pounds every night, which is what you normally lose, up to sometimes 3.5 pounds a night.
Yeah, you're a hard dude, but I can tell you from all that winter warfare experience up there, man, you start looking like you came out of and shed pounds in the cold. You guys want to lose a little bit of weight during your stuff instead of being all bundled up with that toboggan on and a scarf. Just wear a light jacket and open that thing up a little bit. Let your body, burn those calories, heating that shit up, man, and you'll do it.
Yeah, I grew up doing stuff like that, and I grew up poor, so I never had enough money to buy the expensive stuff to stay warm, so I just had to work to do it. So the cold for me wasn't that big. I'll be honest, out of doing a winter and a summer hell week, both, and graduating both, the winter hell week for me was just sit around and suck it up for the most part, and your body is a lot healthier because you're in cold water all the time. So as long as mentally you can take it, you're okay. The summer ones physically beat the hell out of you because they can't get you as cold as the winter ones, so they physically destroy you. So the cold is just one of those things. A little trick that I used, I'd count to 10. When I thought, fuck, I don't know how much more of this I can take, there's nothing in this world I can't do for 10 seconds. So I'd count to 10. When 10 seconds was over, I'd go, you know what? I can do 10 more seconds. Sometimes, next thing I knew, an hour had gone by and it was over.
Yeah, it's all those tips and the shit guys learn when they come down here because, the stuff you did, the stuff I did, Fooch, Mr. Pink, Mr. Black, all those guys. Everybody has something different that they did and tried. Mac, Future Weapons Mac was on here a few shows ago, and Mac still takes cold showers every day. He doesn't take a hot one. But me, nah, my cold, I don't take a warm one anymore. I remember the old third phase at it, going through third phase, there was hot water out there, but the instructors would drain that shit on us. We never did get a hot shower the whole time we were out there, the dicks.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good. What else would you have done a little bit different? Let me talk to you about one more thing, and then I'll cut you loose, man. I know you got
no problem. What is it?
There is the thing goes on. It surprises guys. There's a big discussion going on here about running right now. Yeah. And it became, it really wakes guys up when they hear that on a typical weekend Buds, that you're running over 30 miles a week just to eat chow. And while the speed, you know, a mile and a mile 0.2 over there, a mile 0.2 back, 3 times a day. And while the speed is often necessary because you sprint over to that chow hall, shovel something down, they're going to get you to chow every day whether you have time to eat or not. And sometimes it's a jog. But, you know, for these guys working up, you know, they kind of fall over backwards when you they hear the word. You need to be pushing that or 50, 60 miles a week training for buds. What do you think?
Yeah. I'd say that's probably reasonable. When I was training for that ultra, you know, I was doing 85 to 90 a week. So, but, you know, one of the things that you can look at is if you ride the bus to school and school's 2 miles away and you wake up, I mean, 2 miles, you should be able to easily do in a half hour. I mean, that's very reasonable. You could shuffle that. So, you know what? If you take the bus and you're only 2 miles from school, jog it. So at the end of a week, you've added 20 miles to your week, not even counting that as a workout.
Right.
You know, simple things like that. If you drive to work, wake yourself up a little earlier and jog to work. Or just have it where you wake up each day and you go jog a nice, easy 2 miles, and each evening you do 2 miles, but that doesn't count as your workout. You can jog it nice and easy. You can use it as a 2 mile cool down, but it shouldn't count as part of your workout. But just a simple thing of if you're in school or going to work, just adding 2 miles in the morning, 2 miles at night, that's going to add 20 miles a week to what you already have. So it's just a simple, basic thing like that.
Yeah, that is pretty simple stuff you're talking about. And, you know, too many guys call up and, you know, they're getting ready for buds and they're working on their SEAL contract and they're doing these, you know, even the guys not in school, I got 2 jobs, I just really don't have time, because that's one of the first questions I ask guys when they call, you know, that are, you know, telling me they want to be SEALs, they want to go to buds, is how far did you run today? And I hate to say it, but more often than not, you know, I get the answer, I didn't run today. Well, how far did you run yesterday? Yeah, I had to. You know, you want to frickin' do it, you better put your fucking ass to the grindstone and get it out there. You know, you are going to be plenty deprived of sleep in buds. Man, if you're fucking pulling 4 hours a night now, if you know, shit, you ought to be out there booking it. Any of you guys getting 6, 7, 8 hours of sleep a night telling me you don't have time to train, that's fucked up.
Well, here it is. I guarantee they got time for Xbox. They got time for that movie they want to see. They got time to watch
YouTube.
Snarky. Yep.
Don't take them away from my YouTube channel.
You know what? They can do push-ups, sit-ups, and stuff like that while they're watching your YouTube channel.
Yeah, you know, and that's what I told the guys.
I did. When I was getting ready, especially when I was in A school, every commercial, I wouldn't do it from like the end of the show until it started again, but the average commercial is about 45 seconds to a minute. So every single time that there was a commercial break, I'd pick one commercial and I'd do push-ups until that was over. Then the next one I'd do sit-ups until that commercial was over. Well, hell, by the end of a show, you're busting out a couple hundred push-ups, a couple hundred sit-ups.
Wow. Good for you even bring that up. I tell guys, you know, when I was getting ready for buds, I trained from the time I opened my eyes in the morning till the time I closed them at night. I was constantly doing something 7 days a week. Might not have been running 7 days a week, but I'd never be on the phone without doing some kind of squats or calf raises, just sets of push-ups all day long and through it. So, you know, a lot of guys will do an hour's worth of PT, hit the gym for a little bit, do a 2, maybe a 3 mile run, and they think they're fucking training for buds. And
well, here it is.
That's why there's so much green paint from all those helmets being thrown across that grinder by the bell at buds.
I'm a single father. When I started raising my kids, they were 1, 2, and 6. That's when I started fighting. I started training for the World Army MACT tournament. I was training for that, which I had 8. My first tournament, I think I had 8 fights in 2 days. Let's see, I was training for that, which meant I was putting in at least 2.5 to 3 hours of fighting and grappling time a day on top of lifting time, so I got stuff at the house, and I combined it where I could do it with the girls, and we had fun doing it. Raising the girls by myself with no family around, training for that, teaching full-time at the 18 Delta course, and picking up side contracts and stuff to pay for the fact that I no longer had a wife and had to pay for extra child care for those first couple of years. And somehow I found time to do that and relax and drink a beer.
Damn right. We can always find time to drink a beer. But, yeah, you sleep when you die. Hey, let me ask you this, bro. One of the guys asked here about the volumization, not doing push-ups or pull to failure as opposed to training to failure. You understand that?
Pull to failure.
Volumization, I think he's talking about training to failure.
Yeah.
Muscle failure.
Yeah. Maybe he's talking about when you just do numbers like, okay, I'm going to do 10, and then I'm going to do 10, then I'm going to do 10. I like to do it on a time because that's how everything works. Everything you do in buds is against the clock. When you do push-ups, you do them against the clock. When you do everything there. So I like saying, okay, I'm going to do 2 minutes of this, then 2 minutes of this. And
okay, so here's what he's talking about. He said here's doing 20 push-ups every 30 minutes as opposed to doing 5 sets to failure. I think it's nice just to mix it up. You know, you can do all that shit,
yeah.
right? Because that's what buds is.
Commercial breaks are great. You do push-ups in between, every single commercial, you bust out some push-ups. Every single, commercial, you bust out some sit-ups.
Just mix it up.
Mix it up, and sometimes you reach exhaustion. By the end, you're doing some exhaustion stuff. At the beginning, you're just doing, a set of anywhere from 20 to 60, and, that's just your standard set. Or sometimes every commercial break, okay, I'm going to do 50. So
yeah, you got to mix it up because that's what buds is. You never know what the hell you're going to be doing next, and it's all ugly. And I like to tell these guys, as ridiculous as it is, about training for buds, was that Rocky movie where he fights that big goofy Russian bastard, and the Russian in the gym and on the treadmill and all the weights and all that other shit, and Rocky's out there frickin' running around in the snow lifting frickin' rocks. And it's that primitive, crude type stuff that works all. I'm embarrassed to say, but when I came out of buds, I went home to Tennessee to hang out with my mother's family, and I was a frickin' stud. You get through buds at third phase, buddy, you're a frickin' brick shithouse. And my brother-in-law was a big bow hunter, skinny, lanky, older. Nothing. That dude probably had never done a push-up in his life, and he handed me his compound bow, and I struggled to get that thing back. It was just that certain muscle. He just jerked that thing back, but it was just that one little tiny muscle in his back that was so much more developed than mine, from pull-ups, push-ups, rope climbs, dips. So, when you mix things up more, you hit all kinds of shit.
Yeah, well, I don't feel bad because one of the tricks that he used that you didn't realize is, you just kept trying to pull with your right hand. He pushed with his left and pulled with his right. He used 2 arms. You were using 1. Those are a push-pull technique.
You can't trust anybody in Tennessee, that's for sure. Or Idaho, I hear.
Yeah, well, it's all good.
Any other training tips for these guys at all?
Well, never let yourself know what's going to happen. A great thing to do is when you get done at a workout, have a set of dice. One's one color, one's the other. One color means it's the first number. The second number means it's the second. When you roll it, it might be a 61 or it might be a 26, but that's how many push-ups, sit-ups, and pull-ups you're going to do before that workout's over. That way, you never know is it going to be something easy or something hard.
Yeah, the good old deck of cards PT was always a favorite. And
yep.
It's doing.
And just don't quit. I mean, no matter what happens, every morning when you wake up, you're going to have to stand up, walk over to a mirror, and look at it. And you either like what you see or you can hate what you see. And if you're thinking of going to buds and you think you have what it takes and you never try it, every time you look in that mirror, you're going to see the guy who wasn't even willing to try it. If you go to buds and decide this shit ain't for me, you can look in that mirror and go, you know what? I went and it wasn't for me. As long as you quit for the right reasons, because it wasn't for you, not because you were scared or anything else. If you go there and it's just not for you, cool, it's not for you. But if you are sitting there and you're wondering and you want to know, the only way you're going to know is to sign that dotted line, walk over there, across that grinder and get it on.
The only time you miss the target 100% of the time is by not pulling the trigger in the first place.
Yep.
You're going to miss it every time if you don't pull the trigger. So you got to take that shot, man. And that's been awesome, dude. I appreciate it, man. The guys are chatting away here, and they'll be all fired up the next time I get you on here. So kick some ass. Your daughters are becoming quite proficient in pull-ups and mixed martial arts as well, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They're just great kids. They make my life unbelievably easy and unbelievably enjoyable.
Well, your oldest, you're actually training her.
Yeah. She works out with me. She at the house. I've got mats and bags and everything. That's one of the reasons I was able to train so much is I can train right at my house. So, and it's not expensive. You can beg, borrow, and steal and get tons of gear. So,
there you go.
Yeah.
Hey, bro, I really appreciate it, man. I know I've busted you out here for over almost an hour, so thanks, man. The guys get a lot out of it, you know. The guys, sometimes the Navy pisses me off a little bit with this, lack of information or coming straight out, I loved every bit of my time in the Navy, but there's so much confusion right now for guys getting into the Navy, and it's, us out there dispelling some of the myths. It is possible. These guys can do it. Yeah.
Hey, it can't be that hard. I did it. So.
There you go. Classic. Same with me, bro. And everyone else that went through. Have you ever? I'll get you one more while I was on that. One of the guys asking. You ever taken a major injury training for buds or when you were in it?
Not training for buds, but I'm just coming off rehabbing my elbow, just from all the fast roping and dropping on my elbow and things that have happened to my left arm. I just came off surgery with them having to go in and do some stuff to that. I did right after buds suffered a brachioplexiopathy. I actually severed part of my brachial plexus and had to rehab my left hand, and that was shortly after buds, right after SEER training. So, but that was the biggest thing early.
You got pneumonia in buds as well, too.
Yes.
Yeah, plenty of guys get it. Pneumonia, cellulitis, and you got rolled for that?
Yeah, mine got bad enough, and it wasn't going away. Once you start spitting up blood enough, they'll roll you. So.
Sorry, I got one more here. You probably know now. Does Navy have a wrestling team?
Yes, they do.
I guess guys could Google Navy wrestling team, and do you know anything about a workout called the Hero?
I don't. I'd have to look that one up.
All right. Easy day, bro. Hey, man, thanks.
No problem at all. You guys take care.
Go have a beer. Hey, one more question.
Yeah.
If you and me were to fight, do you think I could kick your ass?
Don't make me call the Gray Ghost.
Well, you got to admit I'm better looking than you, though, right?
Oh man.
Damn, dude. Hey, thanks, bro. I really appreciate it. Good job, man.
No problem. You take care.
All right, bro. I'll talk to you soon, man. Thanks.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, he didn't want to admit it, but I can kick his ass.